Lighting. I look good. Can you see me?
You look fantastic, man. You look good, man. You know what I mean? You killing it. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So
right.
Let's go ahead and play this intro.
Sure.
Yes, sir. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a special edition of the Black Guy Wrestling Podcast. It is I, of course, the poetic professor, Scotland Underwood. You know what I mean? One time for Nolo, for Chaz, for DMac. They're on assignment on this. We're not doing this live, so you're watching this on Friday morning, but for us, it is Thursday night. And like I said, we have a special guest today. Like I said, the work that this brother is doing in the New York, New Jersey scene has been nothing but magnificent. Like I said, we've been following them for quite some time. You know what I mean? Been putting on some of the most incredible cards, have some of the most incredible talent. You know what I mean? And of course, all that starts with one person. Ladies and gentlemen, our guest this evening from BriiCombination Wrestling, the legendary man himself, Anthony Cole. How are you doing tonight, sir?
Thank you, Scotland. I love that intro, man. I appreciate it. I'm doing great. How about yourself?
Bro, I am here. I'm doing fantastic, man. I've been looking forward to this for we've been setting this up for about a month now. So
yes, sir.
Yeah, very, very much looking forward to talking to you about BCW and, like I said, yourself and the journey that you guys have on. Because if I'm not mistaken, you guys just did your 7th anniversary show.
Yes, sir. 7-year anniversary, man. Yes.
Man, so first, the most important question I have is, how are you doing tonight, sir? How are you doing mentally? How are you doing physically? How are you feeling spiritually? How are you doing?
Oh, man, listen, as my mother and her mother would say, I am blessed and highly favored, man. I'm feeling great. And then it's summertime. You know, this is my favorite time of year. I couldn't ask for more, man.
See, this is where we differ, man. I cannot stand the summertime. This heat is unbearable. I mean, keep in mind, like, I'm in my workplace, but like I got my long sleeve sweater on, so like I'm burning up a little bit, but that's just because I'm in a compact area. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, man, I really appreciate that you've taken the time to come on the BGW. And I guess the first question that I have for you is, you know, obviously there's always a starting point. There's always a starting point, especially as wrestling fans, especially growing up. What were you like as a wrestling fan growing up? You know what I mean? Like, what era were you tapped into? Like, who were your favorites? Who was it that made you like, I want to get involved in this?
Oh, man. When I was a kid, you know, I was in the Saturday night's main event era. Hulk Hogan, Andre the Giant. I remember when I was a kid, Saturday night's main event would come on like 11:30, midnight.
Yeah.
And my mother would be like, you better get in that bed. And I'm like, but Mom, I have to see Andre. I gotta see Andre. And she didn't know who the wrestlers were. So she's always be like, who's this Andre? Who's this Andre? I'm like, Andre the Giant. And then that was my favorite wrestler, man. When Andre the Giant would come out, I would be like, man, at that time when Hulk Hogan slammed him for the first time,
87, man.
Right here, I actually shed a tear. I was so upset that Hulk Hogan pulled that off. I was like, no.
So, and like I said, it's funny you bring that up because, like, you know, one thing we always talk about is like how we perceive different eras of pro wrestling. So, like, I grew up like 90s wrestling. So, like,
Yes.
obviously like Rock and Austin, but me being like a historian in the game, like moments like that, like the Hogan Andre moment, I think for like a lot of younger fans probably don't understand the magnitude of that, because we're so equipped to having wrestling every day of the week. But like back then, like you said, like you had to stay up till 11 o'clock.
Had to stay up, right?
You know what I mean?
There was no YouTube, there was no DVR, so if you missed it, you missed it. Like there's no way to replay it. You know, so you had to stay up.
And then we're also talking about like the era where like the magazines were important, like the Pro Wrestling Illustrated. You know what I mean? Did you have like I know you said Andre, but like were you also tapped into like NWA? Were you tapped into any, or was like were you a WWF kid?
I was just a WWF kid.
I respect it. So then, like as you got older, like did you translate with the times that were changing for pro wrestling as well?
Oh yeah, I kept up with it. Up until about when The Rock fought John Cena. And then, I started to drift away, but then I came back to it. Like I like what's going on right now. I was actually watching the Royal Rumble just the other day. I'm like, oh snap, this is it. And then I watched the night 2 of WrestleMania that was in Philly. So I'm trying to, get back into it.
Slowly back in the groove, for sure. Would you say, like, not to compare, because I feel like it's like an unfair comparison, but like comparing like watching night 2 of Mania and then like going back and watching like the older wrestling, would you say that you see the elements of like, how do you think it's gotten better? Do you think there's certain things that you wish could be brought back of that time?
You know what? From a production standpoint, it's gotten much better. Like when I go to WrestleMania, to see the lights, the pyrotechnics, that's amazing. I get chills every time, But as far as having me on the edge of my seat storyline, I think the older era got it. Like, because sometimes like you see where they're going, and I'm like, oh, come on, we know what the outcome is gonna be, right? But then back in the day, it was like you never knew. It could go either way. But now it's like we've gotten so much more sophisticated. It becomes a little predictable at times. So I think that the older era was more edge of the seat, at least for me anyway.
Definitely. Like, I'm very much a big fan of like the era where you didn't know everything, and you know what I mean, like the element of surprise that bestowed, like, you know what I mean, like you bringing up like Andre and Hogan, like I'm pretty sure at that time people did, like, you saw the build up, you know what I mean, like the Hogan getting the big trophy, Andre getting the small trophy, and then the following week Andre coming out with Bobby Heenan, you know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you don't get those type of things. But are you originally from around New York, New Jersey?
Yeah, I was born in Brooklyn. Then I moved to Queens when I went to high school, and been in Queens ever since.
Okay, so clearly, especially where BCW is right now, but the importance of the New York, New Jersey scene in pro wrestling, like I said, very prevalent, very important in my aspect. Because like I said, we're talking about a region that birthed, you know what I mean, like that especially that northern style of professional wrestling, WWF, you know what I mean. Like I said, ECW being in Philly, but you know what I mean, like very have much ties into New York. What would you say makes New York, New Jersey a very important hotbed for pro wrestling?
I mean, listen, just like in any other entertainment business, if you can make it here, you can make it anywhere. I mean, like when I go to other places and I see some other shows, I've been out to Philly, Baltimore, we've been in Cali, a lot of good shows out there, but no matter where we are, where we go, you always hear the workers and the talent say, man, I got to get up to the East Coast. I got to get into that New York, New Jersey scene. You know what I mean? So they know it's a hotbed, man. This is where you want to be at.
I remember like when I was like when I got old enough to like do like my research and everything like that, like like a lot of people may not know, especially of this new generation, like ECW was a successor to Tri-State Wrestling Alliance, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
But like they were running shows in like New Jersey, and I think there's a couple of clips on YouTube of like full shows. But like it became very much, especially in the 90s, like if you were a top talent of the late 90s or you were a legend of the 80s, like your predominant area was in that New York, New Jersey scene. Was there any shows that you went to like around that time where you were like, man, like it just intensified your love for wrestling?
Well, you know, where we used to run at in Queens is right down the block from the original ECW arena. And I've seen a couple of shows that I actually tried to do some shows in that building, but they won't let you do shows in that building anymore. So we had to go down, but it was the Elks Lodge. And man, those shows were incredible, man. Like I've seen some of the best talent coming up in that ECW arena. Yeah.
Man, you said the Elks Lodge, man. That's yeah,
that
took me back. So when did it become an idea that you wanted to own your own wrestling promotion, or was that even in the drive when you were driving on this path? Was that even something that you had thought about? Was it something that came to you? How did that process work?
Listen, let me tell you something. I'm gonna give you like the medium story because it's a long story, but I'm gonna give you the medium.
Hey man, talk your piece, man. We got plenty of time.
Okay, so you know I've always been an entrepreneur. I've always had several different businesses. Before I got in the wrestling business, I was into the entertainment, hip hop, poetry, comedy. I had all of these guys under my management, you know. And then one day, my daughter came to me and she goes, "Dad, I want to start my own company." So I looked at her. I said, "Well, you tell me what you want the name of your company to be. Tell me what you wanted to do, and I'll help you." Because originally, the name of my company, I was an investment company, and it was incredibly talented investors. So that was my parent company. And I did a lot of stuff under that brand. But then my daughter came to me, and she said, "Dad," her name is Brittany, and she said, "Dad, I want to start my own company, and I want it to be a clothing company. And it's going to be all my own designs." Ever since my daughter was young, she has had, just like me, a love of dragons, but she can actually take that image and draw it out and make it magnificent. So when she came to me and said she wanted to own her own company, she came to me with this drawing. And you know what? I got to put this up on social media. Yeah. Her first drawing was a koi fish transforming into a dragon. Ooh. And on the back of the shirt, it actually told the story of the koi fish. You know, the koi fish swam upstream to the top of the mountain. And when they got to the top of the mountain, the gods turned those koi fish into majestic dragons. So this is all depicted in her first piece of art that she did for her company. And her company was called BriiCombination. So I was like, you know what? I love that. She brought out a couple of pieces and she went from doing T-shirts all the way up to doing prom dresses. And now she is actually a costume designer for off-Broadway plays. So she's doing wonderful.
Oh, so y'all just go-getters. I
mean, we out there, man. We gotta get it. You know? So when she went off to college, I said, you know what? Instead of branding it as ITI, let's take, Brittany's name and let's form it. Let's grow it. So I had always told my team, like, we can't use every idea, but pitch everything to me. So, one night, this is January. One night I'm asleep. It's probably about 3:00 in the morning. Two of my guys call me and they like, "Ant, listen, we just released a book of poetry. That's doing well. We did these shows at Rustic. Everything is going beautiful. Now it's time to expand." And I'm like, "All right, talk to me." They like, "What if we open up a wrestling company?" I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "Fellas, it's 3:30 in the morning, man. Y'all talking to me about a wrestling company? I don't know nothing about being a wrestler." They're like, "Listen, Ant, you know the business side, and we can rally the wrestlers, and we can make it happen." And he's like, "And think about this chant, and I know you're gonna love it." And I'm like, "Let me hear it." And they were like, BC Dub, BC Dub, BC Dub. And I was like, oh, wow. So I sat up. And I'm like, all right, you know what? I'm going to hear you guys out. Because obviously it's 3:30 in the morning. And this must mean a lot to you guys because you put me at 3:30 in the morning. So, we went through it. This was January 2016. We did our first show March 2016. And I handed it to them. Those guys knew what to do. They put me in touch with the right people. And we've been rocking ever since. And what a turnaround after these 7-8 years. I remember when I made my very first phone call to book a wrestler. And he was like, well, I never heard of you. What is BriiCombination? And, do you have any references? Like, it was like pulling teeth to, try to book the wrestlers. But you know what? Through persistence and perseverance, now I call the wrestlers and they're like, yes, sir.
Get it locked
in. You got a spot for me? Yes, sir. I'm like, that's what I'm talking about. But you know what? That all comes with a trust and, being able to do good business and letting my reputation precede me. So, we've been on the right path, man. It's been slow. Sometimes it goes up. Sometimes it goes down. Yeah. But, we stay steady. We stay
steady. Would you say that from your time of like, is there a difference in the way of like working with like wrestlers, production, as opposed to like your previous ventures and like doing like poetry, hip hop, stuff like that? Or did you say that it's one and the same?
No, not at all. Not at all. Completely different animal. So I'm giving you a prime example. So one time I booked this hip hop show in Brooklyn. Okay. I had my cousins from Long Island coming out. They was dope, right? But then I also had my boys from Brooklyn coming out. So my cuz called me and he like, yo, cuz, we can't do the show. I'm like, why not? And he said, you got XYZ on the show. And if we see them, it's not going to be good. I'm like, what? I'm like, dang. I'm like, all right, so what if I do this? What if I put you guys on early, put them guys on late, you guys come in, do what you do, and you did. And they're like, all right, we could do that, but just don't have us in the building at the same time. So that was cool. I mean, now they had an issue with each other, but they didn't have to work together. You know what I mean? I got one group in and out real quick, got the other group in, and now they never saw each other. However, sometimes in the wrestling industry, you try to book a match. You want to put A versus B. And sometimes A will say, listen, B, I don't feel safe with B. I'm not really interested in that match. And that used to happen a lot in my first years. And I didn't really understand that. Because I'm like, well, if we all in the same industry, we all got to respect each other. We all got to work with each other, for the greater good.
Right.
And you would think that, right? You would think that. But not so much. Right. So that's what I was thinking. I'm like, even if they don't like each other, they still got to work together. But nah, it's different, man. It's different.
And like I said, like for me being like on the outskirts, you know what I mean? Like not dealing with any like type of promotions or anything like that. But like you hear those things like as a wrestling fan, like you we're in that era where like we want to be in the know. We want to know what's going on. We want to know if this wrestler has personal beef with this wrestler.
Right, yeah.
And I do feel like that is an aspect of pro wrestling, like where as a fan, it becomes too much to know about that. Like I don't want to know personally, you know what I mean, about it. But I think bringing like a scenario like that up, I can imagine like you've had to have conversations with people about that doing business the right way, or like, you know what I mean? Like kind of, would you say like trying to see if you're ever in the scenario of like letting them see the bigger picture of like what you're trying to accomplish, you know what I mean? Because I think an aspect people don't really put into consideration is like everybody, there's a lot of reputations on the line, you know what I mean? Like your word is their word, which is, you know what I mean? So those things that you factor in when it comes to dealing with people?
Oh yeah, definitely. Like, because the one thing is you want a smooth locker room. You don't want any egos. You don't want anybody, having an attitude with one person and nobody knows, but you can feel it in the room. Like you can feel the negative energy. So there's been a couple of times where I've had to, talk to a person on the side and say, hey, talk to me. What's going on? What you feeling? Because we can definitely feel the shift in the energy.
Yeah.
So I've definitely had to do that. And I feel like it's better to do that. And that's why I keep like an open door policy, because this thing right here that we do, this is very serious, man. Each time you step into that ring, you run the risk of, maybe not walking out the same way you walked in. So, we got to take that into consideration. So I really look at those factors,
So you said the initial conversations for BCW started on January, and you had your first show in March.
Yep.
So what was the, like, when it came down to like you and your team sitting down and you're like, all right, cool, this is how I want BCW to look like, because the core thing of a wrestling promotion is the look and feel, like to the logo, to the ring colors, the ring mat, where the show takes place at. Were those key conversations that y'all were having in the beginning stages, and what was the initial process looking like?
Oh man, so we had BriiCombination Entertainment, right, which was the first leg under Incredibly Talented Investors, and that had already had like the black and gold with the teal. So we started to use those colors, right? But then as we evolved, it was like, nah, BCW needs to stand out. It needs to be like eye-catching. So for my love of dragons, I just started, making everything dragon-based. If you look at the logo, that logo came from my imagination. I sat down with the artist, I sketched it out, I drew it, made sure it looked perfect. And then we came up with the logo. Same thing with my championship belts. Like, I'm gonna give you a little nugget right here. So when I first got in this business, right, and I'm not talking shade about anybody, anything like that, so people don't get upset with me. But when I first came in this business, there were two things people said about BCW. Number one, Anthony Cole doesn't know nothing about wrestling. He'll never be able to make it in this business. Number two, they'll never have a champion. They'll never have a championship belt. They won't even make it past their first year. Okay? So I'm like, okay. I'm like, well, y'all obviously don't know me, because I'm the guy that's known to always make history. You know what I mean? It's like at my company, I've been at my company as of today for 24 years. Okay. I was the very first African-American VP at that company. And I set the standard.
Yes,
and like I said, I've been there for 24 years, and they send me all over the world to teach, to teach software and teach investment, property and investment, procedures and stuff like that. So when people told me that I couldn't do it, and I know, not to sound cliche, but when they told me I couldn't do it, the first thing I did was picked up a book. And I'm like, well, what does it take to run a wrestling company? How does it look? How is it supposed to be? And then I started, figuring things out. Like I said, 2016, we 2024 now.
Yeah, y'all
I just celebrated my 7 years. So I must be doing something right. You know what I mean?
Yes,
so
sir.
I don't mean to toot my own horn, but toot.
No, look, man, we are all about flower giving and bigging people up on this podcast. So, man, like, embrace, because like I said, those are essential things, you know what I mean? Like, very much so. And we've heard like stories in the wrestling industry of like people getting into it for the wrong reason, you know what I mean? So clearly, like, you've already established like an inspiration behind it, you know what I mean? Like I said, like, everything is methodically placed in a sense, right?
Yes.
And like I said, like that first show it sets the tone for the remaining of everything that you do at that point. And that first show, even just has an ounce of like where it's not authenticity, then like it throws everything off. Do you remember anything in particular about that first show? I was looking at the card earlier, like, you know what I mean? Like, I saw that like a young Willow Nightingale.
Oh, man, listen. So, NYWC, I give it up to Shane O'Neill. That is my wrestling pops. I love him to death. He taught me everything that I know about the wrestling business. And today, he's still my sensei. He's still like, my trainer. And he introduced me to everybody. Like, like you said, Willow Nightingale, Rex Lawless, Alvin Alvarez, the Big O, like so many people. He even introduced me to like Mikey Whipwreck. My first show that I did, Mikey Whipwreck was the special guest referee, and I'm just standing there looking like, yo, I'm really standing next to Mikey Whipwreck. Like, oh man, that first show was absolutely amazing. Like, I loved it. I had some great people on that show.
Yeah,
that one was like.
That is different, right? Yeah. And then like even looking in today, like I said, like you got Jay Bougie, you got the Allfather Darius Carter, Vicious Vicky, like I said, the Urban Playboy, PB Smooth.
Yes.
What do you look for, like when, especially for talent coming in? What are traits about them? Like obviously the in-ring skill is equally important, but I'm sure there are certain things you factor in, like their entertainment, how they connect with the crowd, like how they conduct themselves. Like you look at somebody like a Darius Carter, we've said it plenty of times on this podcast, like walks like a world champion. You know what I mean?
Oh, definitely.
Jay Bougie, like I've talked to him several times, like through message, but like the grind and the drive he has, you know what I mean? So what are some key traits that you look for in talent that you want in your locker room?
You know what? Even before we get to the ring aspect, even before we get to their ability to capture the crowd, the first thing I look for is humility. There's so many wrestlers out there, and I'll get wrestlers that say, hey, you need to book me. I'm the greatest thing on the indies right now. I'm hot. Boom, boom, boom. Okay. So when you tell me that, the first thing I do is I go to your social media. Oh, you hot, but you only got 1,500 followers. Okay. And I'm talking about 1,500 total. Instagram, Facebook, and right? Like, okay, well, how hot are you? Right? And then you have a guy that comes up to me and will be so humble and say, hey, Mr. Cole, all I'm asking for is an opportunity, let me show you what I could do. I can bring certain people with me, this, that, and the other. And, I'm always promoting on social media. First thing I do, go to social media, see if they're really promoting. Now I look at this guy. He comes to me so humble. He got 15,000 followers on Twitter alone. Who do you think I'm going to mess with, right? I'm going to mess with that guy who comes to me looking for an opportunity. And when I look at everything he's saying, it's facts, because a lot of people, they just, they put 100 on 10. And then when you book them, then you got to deal with the attitude, because now you book them and he's under the impression that, or she's under the impression that, oh, I told him I'm the greatest thing. Now I'm getting booked. Yo, he know I'm the greatest thing. Now I got to deal with that ego, right? Now I got to, right? And I'm like, nah, I don't want to deal with that, So once we get through that phase, then I'm like, okay, now let me see what you could do. Let me see how you would react if I tell you on this match you got to go under. Are you gonna have an attitude, or are you gonna do the job as good as if you were going over? You know what I mean? So.
What about even from like, because I feel like an important part of any wrestling show is like your production team, because they're the ones that make, you know what I mean? Like you can have a crowd full of people, and the enthusiasm there, but like the production is what really like hones that craft. You know what I mean? Like, is there any standouts, especially from your team, that you're like, I want cameras to look this way, or I want the editing to be this way? Like, what does that look like?
Oh man, that's the bread and butter. Like you said, that production quality, that production value has to be on point. And my team, they're pretty good. We know where to get the camera crew at for the specific angles, stuff like that. We make sure that audio sounds good. And I have a 3 to 4 man commentary team, so all the headsets got to be good. And the production team is, it's everybody. It's not just the camera crew, but it's the music guys. It's it's the commentary team. It's the ring announcer. And when we all come together and we form Voltron, it's like boom. It's like, we can't be stopped. You know what I mean?
Just keep moving. Yes, sir.
I give it up to my team. I love my team. You know, like, yeah, you know, nothing all the time. Like, you know, I wouldn't be able to do this without them because this would drive me insane. I feel like I've become a little more insane over the last 7-8 years.
Hey, that's what I'm saying, man. Like that. In fact, I'm glad you asked that question because my next, or glad you said that statement because my next question is like, in the 7 years of doing BCW and being in the wrestling industry, what are some of the key things you have learned about wrestling? What are the key things you have learned about yourself in doing this? Obviously, being that you started in 2016, I'm sure you have seen a lot. You endured a pandemic, you know what I mean? So I know that affected a lot of things, but like in that time, what would you say are like some of the lessons you have learned in the 7 years of doing this?
You know what? One big lesson that I learned about myself is that I wasn't a very patient person. You know, like in my job and my other businesses, it's like I'm that guy. You know, if I say do this, I don't have to repeat myself. It just gets done. You know what I mean? And I worked so hard to get to that level professionally that I thought that was going to instantly transfer over into the wrestling world. Like if Anthony Cole is calling you, he calling you for a reason. Pick up the phone, right?
Yeah.
I didn't have that clout that at the moment when I first started. I didn't have that clout in the beginning. And I'm not saying that everybody that I call now pick up, but I do get callbacks and I do get people coming to me saying, hey, you have any opportunities? Whereas in the beginning, I would be like, yo, I call this person. They don't call me back, man. Forget them. I don't care if they don't want to be on my show. I'm doing my show anyway. Like, and then I had to learn, like, it's not you. You know, people be busy. People have things going on. So you got to be patient. You got, and you know what it was? I would always text people on Saturday. And then my team would be like, listen, just because you're off on Saturday doesn't mean they're off on Saturday. And I'm like, oh, you know what? You're right. So I had to learn that. That was one big thing I had to learn about myself. But now I know.
No, it's funny you say that because, like I said, like when I would reach out to like different people, like for just interview purposes or anything like that, I always made a point that like if I was contacting somebody that was involved in wrestling, I was like, never contact them on the weekend because more than likely they have a booking, they're doing something, you know what I mean? Like I found that like Mondays is the perfect day because they settle.
The perfect day, yes. Yep. I would be tight. Let me tell you, I would be tight. Friday, Saturday, I'm hitting everybody up, right? Because now the shoot job is I'm on the weekend. So I got all day. I'm like boom, 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 boom. Nobody answered me. I'm like, oh, okay.
It's like, all right, that's what's up. How did the like the pandemic affect, like, you know what I mean? Because obviously I'm sure going from 2016 to into 2020, you were probably building a momentum, but obviously you survived it, you made it through. But was it a touch and go situation when that occurred?
You know what? We had already had the BCW shows planned. So we kept that same foundation and we kept trying to do it like, you know, month after month after month. And then it kept getting worse. But, you know, we just hold steady. We stayed steadfast. And, you know, soon, and we did anniversary. Actually, it's right here. You see this?
Yes, sir.
Anniversary 4. This was during the pandemic. This was 2021, if I'm not mistaken, either 20 or 21. Atlantic City. That was a beautiful anniversary. That was the first one we did during the pandemic, and it came off pretty well. You know, we had some stars out there in Atlantic City. We had fun, but that right there was like the momentum. You know, that was when we were like, yeah, we ready. Then boom, everything shut down, and then it was like, back to square one. You know, so
do you think like a moment like that like was a an opportunity for you to kind of like step back and you're like, all right, and not to say like a second chance, because I don't perceive this promotion as like, oh, you know, a second chance. I really more so see that as like, all right, let's just slow this down a little bit. There's a little speed bump, you know what I mean? But from the pandemic to where you're going today, like, would you say that there is a difference between the BCW of today in that time period from when you first got started?
Oh, yes, but definitely. And I'm glad you used that analogy. And that's something that I always say. You know, these trials and tribulations, they can't stop me. They just slow me down. You know what I mean? It's like a speed bump, you know? When we first, like I said, when we first got in the industry, they were saying the inmates are running the asylum. Like they didn't think we had what it took, you know? But I always told my team, look, stay focused on what we got to do. You know, if people talk about us, that's good. At least they talking about us. But we're not going to be over there being keyboard gangsters. We're not going to insult anyone. We're just going to stay focused on what we got to do. And if I had to compare it, I would say when we first started, we was like a locomotive train. You know, you take the coals and you put them in, boom, boom, like everything was manual, right? It was like hard work. Like trying to book a show was tough. But now it's like, man, listen, hit that automatic start button and let's get up out of here, right?
Yes, sir.
So we ready now. It's not as difficult. And I look at that and I say, man, you know, I would have never thought I would be doing this. And I would have never thought that we would have come so far, and we still have a long way to go. There's still so much room for improvement. You know, there's so many other facets that are going to come from BriiCombination Wrestling. And I just can't wait. Like when you see the evolution of this company over the next couple of years, you're going to be like, oh, wow, he said it and he did it.
And I'm glad you have brought that up. This is a perfect segue. Was there a particular moment, a match, an event that you did? I know you brought up the 4th anniversary, but was there a moment where you were sitting or like standing and you're looking at the crowd, you're looking at the talent in the ring, where you're like, damn, there's something special about what we're doing. There's something different about what we're doing. Like we are on this path. And like, you know, when you get that feeling of something like you can feel it in your stomach, it's like going into your heart.
Yes.
Was there a particular moment, or would you say it was a combination of things?
Listen, there have been so many moments at BCW that have been like that. But the one moment that stands out the most to me is a show that we did called A Cold Day in Hell. It was the wedding of Sean and Jen Clancy. They actually met on a dating website. They had their first date at BCW. And then several years later, we married them. Legitimately married them at BCW. Yes. And the cast that we had for the wedding, we had Chris Dickerson, Yaya, Orange Cassidy. We had Ophidian. We had so many top talent at that show. That show was so great. That show was so great that I will never do another Cold Day in Hell. Like that was that
was the one.
That was the one, man. That was the one. Yes, indeed. Shout out to Sean and Jen, man. They got a little baby boy now, and they're still together rocking. So Sean and Jen, I love you guys. You're always in my heart, man.
Come on, man. See, and like those are the things that like when I have people that like say like, oh, you still get involved with pro wrestling. I'm like, absolutely. It's moments like that, like for me, like I met my the love of my life through pro wrestling. So like it's like love, like wrestling is this gigantic love story, and like something like that is deeper than what I think a lot of people, because that's a moment I know for a fact they will never forget. And like I said, BCW being the one to give them that. Like I said, I just got one more question for you before we just rapid fire a couple things. But you mentioned the future of BCW, and like I said, the roster that you have right now, incredible. The cards you've been putting out, especially this year, I believe you put out 3 shows this year, and like three or four. And like I said, you've had like main event level talent, main event, like some of the best up and comers in the game. What does the rest of 2024 look like? And more importantly, what does the future of BCW inspire to look like?
Well, this year, BCW, we have 3 remaining shows for the year.
Okay.
August 18th is going to be Summer on Smash. Then we have October 20th, Nightmare at the Mecca, and then December 15th, Christmas with a Vengeance. Okay. Now, I don't know if you've been watching BCW, but on the last BCW show, my inaugural grand champion,
Jay
Anthony Gangone. No,
Oh,
Anthony
no, excuse me. He's the Jay Boo's
right.
Yeah.
He lost the title that day at Anniversary 7, and he decided to put his hands on me. He gave me the mandible claw, which when I've seen this thing on TV, I didn't realize it could hurt that bad. Okay. Listen, man, he gave me that mandible claw. First of all, I couldn't talk for 2 days. And then I don't know if he like tried to detach my spine or
He was trying to like rip the jaw
out. Oh man, I was in so much pain. So first and foremost, Anthony Gangone, it is not over. I'm gonna get you. You gotta pay for that.
Hey, look, you hear it right here on BGW. Yep.
Right, But in addition to that, we are doing our very first Grand Rumble on August 18th. We're getting 20 to 30 of the best that independent pro wrestling has to offer.
Ooh.
And this is exclusive. This is
a world. I was gonna say this is a world exclusive.
I'm saying this. The winner of the Grand Rumble will get a chance to face none other than the All-Father himself at Nightmare at the Mecca on October 20th. Hey. So let's do it, baby. BCW is evolving. I want nothing but the best. If you haven't been on BCW and you looking to make a name for yourself and you want to make a debut, DM me. But when you DM me, just know there's going to be certain expectations. I'm going to need promos. I'm going to need promotions. I'm going to need you to get out there and really connect with the BCW faithful. So if that's not something you're willing to do, this might not be the show for you.
Hey, look, you said that show is August 18th?
August 18th.
Mr. Cole, if you want to come back on this platform and promote that show, the platform is yours, sir. You know what I mean? We want to help push BCW to that next level. We want to encourage people to go see BCW. Like I said, you heard it here, folks. The Grand Rumble with the winner going on to meet the All-Father Darius Carter. That is absolutely incredible. We get special news in here. We get hype. So, so I
love it. Yeah.
So, like I said, we'll talk on the on DMs about like promoting the show on our end. You know what I mean?
Okay.
But like I said, that those are the main questions I have for you, man. Other than that, like I guess the last thing is more on a personal aspect. Like, how fulfilled are you in doing this? Like I said, this company is like, you said is inspired by your daughter. You know what I mean? So like, I know for you, having her name even attached to this, like there's a level of pride that you want to put on it. Like you said, like for me, like I just released my third poetry book, you know what I mean? That's dedicated. Okay. Yeah, and it's dedicated to my son that passed away. And I'm very, thank you, man. Thank you. And when you said like you have your daughter's name attached to BCW, I completely understand the aspect. Like that's not something you're going to take lightly. It's not something that you are going to disrespect in any way. So to see from that initial phone call at 3 a.m. in January 2026 to just having your 7th anniversary show to where you're going now, how fulfilled and proud are you of BCW?
Oh man, I am unbelievably proud of BCW, because even like with any of my businesses, I get to the point where I ask myself, man, why am I still doing this? Like I could just have a regular 9 to 5 and just be like a regular person.
Yeah.
But then I think like, I'm so much better than that. I cannot be working for somebody else all my life. Because, like I said, they've sent me all over the place. The company makes millions and millions and millions. And then, when it's time for bonuses and raises, they're like, oh, because of the budget and everything, and I'm like, what? I'm like, I know y'all got money because I've been out there getting it. I know it. I know it, right? So I figure, like, if I put that much tenacity and that much time into my own business, there's no telling the heights that I can reach,
Yeah.
And that's why I do it. And every time we do a show, I see the crowd and I hear them screaming. And like at the last show, Bougie, Gang Gone. I mean, that crowd was on the edge of their seats. And people were coming up to me like, this is why we come to BCW. Mm-hmm. You guys put on an amazing show. And I'm like, thank you guys. And just like, the one thing that I need to improve is that crowd, man. I got to double, triple, quadruple my crowd, and I'm putting some things in place to get that done now. But I need more eyes on the product. I need more people to see how great BCW is, man. And where we're going, 2025, 2026, you're going to see some unbelievable things. We're already planning Anniversary 8, just so you know. So
look, man, that's the thing about looking into the future, man. You got to plan out for what's to come. No, that, like I said, whatever BGW can do in helping more eyes see BCW, man. Like I said, this is an open platform. Anytime you ever want to come back on this show and just promote BCW, that floor is yours, my man. Anytime.
I thank you. I thank you so much for that, man. I appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
And we will definitely be in touch. Yes.
Oh, without question. So before we get up out of here, before we wrap up, like I said, this has been an absolutely tremendous interview, tremendous vibes. Please let everybody know. Please tell people where they can find BCW, you know what I mean, where they can find you, how they can connect with you. Please, the floor is yours. Promote as much as you want.
You can find BCW on all social media platforms, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and you can follow us on YouTube at BriiCombination, BRII, no space, combination on our YouTube channel. And we're about to start some new BCW shows on the YouTube channel. Monday night is going to be Monday night's main event. Tuesdays is going to be How Did We Get Here? Thursdays, I'm going to put up a segment called Throwback Thursday. And then Fridays are going to be Fabulous Female Fridays. So it's going to be certain matches from, all the years of BCW that I'm now going to put out on Facebook to give, more people the opportunity to see where we came from and where we headed.
And we'll plug all those things right in the link below and on the YouTube comment. Of course, BGW, we've had an incredible week this week. We started Sunday with working with Public Enemies. Wednesday, the watch list with Hearts, where we talked about the Goldberg heel turn of 2000, and finishing out the week strong with the good brother Anthony Cole, BCW. Yes, sir. You can find me, of course, at PoeticScotland on X. You can find me on Instagram, Scotland_Underwood. Please follow the pod page, bgwpod. That will be on X, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. We're all over the place. BGW is growing. We're getting big. You know what I mean? No, not to pat ourselves on the back. We're doing things out here. You know what I mean?
Doing things out here. That's right.
Just a little bit, man. Just a little bit. And of course, please go follow the other brothers on the pod, Nolo Green, Chaz, DMac. You know what I mean? And we'll be taking a little break. You know what I mean? We won't be back on the pod until this upcoming Wednesday for a new episode of the Watch List. But once again, Mr. Cole, I just want to say I appreciate you dearly for taking the opportunity, time for us to build and connect. Like I said, we want nothing but the absolute best for BCW. So for whatever we can do on our part to help and ensure more eyes, more people go to the shows, more people connect with you guys, we want to do it because, like I said, we believe in the vision. I believe in you. Like I said, this has been an incredible interview, my man. I appreciate you.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you so much, man. Thank you for having me on the show. And you know what? Before I get out of here,
please
send me some sizes. Let me get you guys some BCW shirts over there so you'll have a part of the brand. And welcome to the BCW family.
Thank you, man. And like I said, vice versa, man. We're working on new merch. We'll throw some of your direction too. Hopefully within this year, BGW can make a trip up north and come tap in with you guys.
Always welcome, man. Always welcome.
Thank you, man. So if we don't got anything else, my man, thank you so much. For everybody else, we are